What's up, everybody? Thanks for listening to the Whatcast. Look at us, 2 weeks in a row. Consistency. We're doing good. No ailments.
You just jinxed us.
Yeah.
Now that we're not going to put out an episode for 7 months. Sorry. We'll see after summer starts.
Yeah. I'm getting ready to retire into a cave and not come out until the sun does. I'm tired of this cold. You were talking earlier, Mike.
Yeah, fuck this cold. Fuck this winter, man.
Yeah.
I'm just so sick of this shit. This has been... And the weird thing is, like, I've been so spoiled with winters. Like, the past few years, we've had maybe a couple of snowstorms, nothing too bad. We only got below zero a handful of times. And this winter has just been kicking my ass all over the place, man. A lot of snow, a lot of wind, like crazy wind, ice, just a bunch of bullshit, and I'm fucking sick of it, man.
I'm with you now, dude. I'm over it. I'm tired of this shit. Well, besides the weather, we're going to talk about something that I don't know. We should have covered a long time ago. I don't know why we haven't covered it, but I kind of do. I never really read into it as far as being something insanely interesting to study until you find out how many cultures have almost the same type of entity in their folklore and their myths. What are we going to talk about tonight, Mike?
Well, tonight we're going to talk about the black dog, but while this is something that's kind of been springing up all over the world tonight anyway, I'm going to be focusing mostly on sightings within England. Maybe in a future episode I'll do black dog sightings outside of England, but for tonight there's enough. Like there's and I'm only going to scratch the surface here cuz it's like every little town or hamlet has their own version of the black dog.
Right. That's the main thing I remember when I did read stuff about the black dog or black hounds is that and they're mostly in Europe is where the stories come from, and every fucking little place has one.
Yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know what a black dog is, it depends on where the particular legend is coming from. It's generally agreed upon that it's some sort of spectral or supernatural creature, but it differs in personality from locale to locale. In some places it acts as a menace. Some places it's a guardian or it's helpful. Sometimes it acts like the banshee from Irish folklore, where it's like a omen of death. But it's typically described as being a large black dog with glowing red or yellow eyes. But sometimes it's depicted as being a headless dog.
A headless dog?
Yes.
Oh,
a dog with no head.
That would be horrific to see. It just like sprinting out of the woods and it just stops and kind of looks
There's
at
no
you.
head.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. But the legend seems to originate from English folklore, but it has popped up in other areas of Europe and even North America and Latin America. But it seems to be mostly spread through cultures that have their ancestry steeped in Slavic, Germanic, or Celtic origin. For some reason, those are the ones that get tied to it the most.
Mm-hmm.
But early tales of the black dog they often associated sightings of the black dog with the devil, and it was typically considered to be an incarnation of some sort of hellhound. But like I mentioned before, other times it has ties with death, not that it's a killer dog, but that it is like a signal or an omen of death. But most of the tales of the black dog seem to center on crossroads or grave mounds, but also places where executions have taken place. And for some reason, it's tied to these areas. And there's some beliefs in some of these stories and legends that the black dog is the ghost of someone who was killed, and they'll come back for either vengeance or to protect somebody. Again, it depends on the locale. Now, there is one that we talked about I can't remember the purpose. Like, I don't remember what the episode was, or so if you wanted to go back and reference, I can't help you. I'm sorry, but we did talk about the one the I think it's like the most famous black dog case. But it's this dog called the Black Shuck. Do you remember talking about that at all?
Yes, sir.
All right. So for anyone who doesn't know the Black Shuck, I'll give you a little background and then I'll get into his famous story. But the Black Shuck is a version of the black dog that originates in East Anglia, England. And it also, Black Shuck is like the local nickname, but it also goes by Old Shuck, Old Shock, or just plain old Shuck. But Black Shuck has been described by different people as being friendly, but other people have described it as being dangerous or something to be wary of. And the descriptions of Black Shuck also seem to vary. So this is something that's kind of weird because you'll have these sightings within the same area that they're attributed to the same thing, called the same thing, but it's being described completely different. So it's like the observer has their own unique experience with this entity. But there's the typical black dog description, the typical large black dog with glowing eyes. Some people say it's a large dog. Some people say that it's a dog the size of a calf. And then others report it as being a dog the size of a horse. And it always has these sharp teeth and glowing eyes. But there's some reports that have described it as being a dog with one single giant eye in the middle of its face that glows red.
Oh.
Yeah, super creepy. But the name Shuck, because it's kind of a weird name. There's a purpose behind it. Black because that's what color the dog is, so it's a descriptive word. But Shuck itself, that derives from an Old English word, skucka, which means devil or fiend. But there's some that also think it could be derivative of the word sku, which means to terrify. But the first printed mention of Black Shuck, the name Black Shuck, comes from 1850 edition of the journal called Notes and Queries, and it was written by Reverend E.S. Taylor, and he describes Shuck the dog fiend. And I've got an excerpt here. What he wrote was, "This phantom I have heard many persons in East Norfolk, and even Cambridgeshire, describe as having seen a black, shaggy dog with fiery eyes and of immense size who visits churchyards at midnight." So churchyards being, the cemetery. So again, a tie to death and the dead, whether it be someone who's haunting the graveyard as a black dog, or maybe the black dog is guarding the graveyard. He doesn't make it clear in his writing. But one of the weird descriptions come from a 1901 book called Highways and Byways in East Anglia by W.A. Dutt. And he describes the Black Shuck as being an omen of death. So if you see it, it means you're likely going to die. But in his book, he writes that it takes the form of a huge black dog and prowls along dark lanes and lonesome field footpaths. Although his howling makes the hearer's blood run cold, his footfalls make no sound. You may know him at once if you see him by his fiery eye. He has but one, and that, like a cyclops, is in the middle of his head. But such an encounter might bring you the worst of luck. It is even said that to meet him is to be warned that your death will occur before the end of the year. So you would do well to shut your eyes if you hear him howling. Shut them even if you are uncertain whether it is a dog fiend or the voice of the wind that you hear.
Ugh.
Yeah, dude. Imagine that being your omen of death. You just see this giant black dog with one flaming eye, like fucking Sauron.
No thanks. That's terrifying. I see. I'd never heard
Yeah.
of this single eye thing. I know the glowing eye thing, but not this cyclops dog. That's crazy. Anything as big as a horse? I've heard them being like almost werewolf size, but gosh, a cyclops werewolf
Yeah, it
size.
sounds like a D&D monster.
It really
A
does.
horse-sized dog with a flaming eye that can howl, and its howl causes death. Make a saving throw or die instantly. Yeah. I'm gonna put him against the party. The party's gonna have to face the black shuck. You're doomed. Doomed. I don't know if any of them listen to the show or not. I think Cousin Shane does. I think he's a listener, so maybe he'll get warning ahead of time. We'll see. But the black shuck has probably the most famous and terrifying story told about him. On one day in 1577, August 4th to be specific, there were two events that mirrored each other in two separate churches. So the first one was in Blytheburg, and at this church, a large black dog was said to have burst through the doors of Holy Trinity Church with the sound of a thunderclap. He ran to the front of the church and past the congregation, and as he ran past, a man and a young boy dropped dead. And it was said that the mere presence of the black dog in the church caused the steeple of the church to collapse through the roof. As the dog left the church, it left scorch marks on the north door, which are actually still visible on that door.
Oh, wow.
But the same day, at St. Mary's Church in Bungay, it was described by a clergyman named Abraham Fleming, who was also a prolific writer. And he wrote about the event that happened at St. Mary's, saying that black dog, I'll just quote what he wrote. The black dog, or the devil in such a likeness, running all along down the body of the church with great swiftness and incredible haste among the people. In a visible form and shape, it passed between two persons as they were kneeling upon their knees, and occupied in prayer as it seemed, he wrung the necks of both of them at one instant, pulled their head clean backwards, and that even at a moment where they kneeled, they strangely died.
Whoa, that's weird.
And that was a story we talked about on one of the shows way back. I can't remember why.
I remember the dog going into the church. I don't remember what we were talking about in that episode.
Maybe it was just devil dogs.
Maybe it was churches. I'm sorry.
We did a show about church murders, and that was in among them. All the murders at church.
Mm-hmm.
No, I know we talked about it really early on.
You guys just don't remember it.
But I have no recollection what it was. So anybody who's a deep diver that really wants to go, it's probably within the first year or so that we were doing the show. And enjoy the audio quality. It's pristine. It is funny. Someone in our Discord was talking about when they went back and listened to the old shows. And we started, for anyone who might be new, we started back in 2013. And they were commenting on how my voice sounded so much different. I'm like, my voice hasn't changed at all. So just to see, I went back and I listened to like our third episode or something. Like, holy fuck, dude, my voice has changed considerably.
Isn't that weird? And we weren't little kids when we started. We were done growing up.
But that's 12 years of smoking. So I guess that'll do that to you. But that's the only thing I could attribute it to. It's not like we started when we were teenagers and, we were fucking old men when we started and we're older men now.
It's glorious.
Yeah. So the black shuck is probably the most famous, but there's so many different variants. There's these dogs called the Little Port black dogs, and folklorist W.H. Barrett told a story of a huge black dog that rescued a young girl from this what he described as a lustful holy man. The story goes that the dog attacked this friar that was trying to either rape or molest this girl and killed the friar, but sustained injuries in the exchange, and the dog ended up dying as well. So the local men came and they threw the body of the disgraced friar into a pond, but then they gave the dog an honorable burial. And from the point of the burial on, there was a ghost dog that started haunting this area in Littleport. There's another story that's kind of, it's kind of the same because it's a black dog, but it's another, actually, what's supposed to be a ghost of a dog, of a loyal dog, rather than the ghost of someone who was killed. But this dog haunts the A10 road between Littleport and Brandon Creek, or it did, I should say. I'll get to that, but it haunted the A10 road. And this particular dog spirit makes itself known by howling on dark nights, and it would invisibly stalk behind travelers on the road. So anyone who was walking down the road at night, they would hear the sound of a dog approaching behind them, or they would feel hot panting on the back of their legs, and they'd turn around, there'd be nothing there. But the local legend says that this is the ghost of a dog who was waiting for the return of his owner, who got into an accident and drowned in the river Great Ouse in the early 1800s. So all throughout the 19th century, this dog had been haunting this stretch of road, as the story goes, looking for his master who never came home. In 1906, there was a local resident that was driving his car along the A10, and right next to the spot where this dog's owner was said to have drowned, he ran into something completely solid but invisible. There was nothing there, but it fucked his car up. And the local police came and investigated. There was nothing. It looked like he literally was just driving in the road and hit something, and now there's nothing there. But from that point on, the ghost of this dog was never seen again.
Oh, wow.
So did he hit the ghost dog, or who would have thought that you could hit a ghost dog with your car?
It was just an unlucky timing. That dog just burst into physical form, like, manifested, and was like, oh, all right, time to walk around and grant people's death. That was it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. I don't know what to make of it, but I love these stories. There's actually this story that's been going around the internet, just going back briefly, if I may, to the Black Shuck. There's been some articles out there, and then your typical like clickbait memes that you find on social media, like, on this date, whatever, some dude found some fucking thing and this is what happened. Then you click it and it gives you the article, all that bullshit. But this particular thing, it pops up every couple of years where there has been proof of the existence of the Black Shuck.
Ooh.
And archaeological evidence to prove that the Hellhound existed.
Oh.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Which would be fucking awesome if it was true.
Oh.
It's kind of true. It's kind of true. So the actual story, because what keeps popping up, and I'll explain how all that happened, but the actual story is there was an archaeology team called Dig Ventures, and they were doing an excavation in the Suffolk countryside looking for Basically just seeing what they could find. They were doing a dig at Leiston Abbey specifically in 2013. And while they were doing this dig, they dug down about 20 inches and they uncovered the skeleton of this huge dog. They say that it was likely, if it were to stand on its hind legs, it would be close to 7 feet tall and weigh about 200 pounds, they speculated.
Holy shit.
Everything else at this same level, they found like pottery fragments. Everything that was found here at this level would have dated back to the 16th century, which would have been around the time when the black shuck was most active or most seen the most. So they reported all their findings to local newspapers, and it got reported. The initial report, though, the only tie to black shuck at all was the headline of the article, which was done in a tongue-in-cheek manner, like it wasn't being serious. And the headline asked the question, "Are these the bones of devil dog black shuck?" But the entire piece concentrated on the archaeology and what they were doing, specifically because this particular dig was being done. It was one of the first archaeological digs that had been completely crowdfunded. So that was kind of the focus on the story, was the crowdfunding and what they were digging, the time frame that they were looking for and everything. But the fact that they found this dog, that got picked up by the Daily Mail, which is like a tabloid in the UK. And the Daily Mail ran with the headline linking it to the black shuck, and they removed the majority of the things about the dig and what was found and all that stuff, and focused on the fact that these bones had been found from this huge dog. And then they padded the article with different examples of black shuck stories, and went with the classic legend, the church deaths, and then all that other shit. And then from that point on, it had started getting picked up by all these other places on the internet who ran with the part about the demon dog, and it just kind of got exaggerated from there. There's one article that it just starts out with saying the bones of a 7-foot-long hound from hell have been discovered.
Caught my attention.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. So it is true. They did find the bones, but the bones that they found were within close proximity to where the old kitchen would have been.
Ooh.
And so they think that this would have been, the dog that was living there at the time and was probably a loved pet,
Right.
that just got buried there, and wasn't the black shuck at all, unfortunately.
Oh, that dog's like, no, I'm the black shuck. Fuck that.
Yeah, just doubting him now. Now the ghost of that dog is gonna come back.
Yeah.
You're all doomed.
He thought he was cool.
But there's another story that I got a kick out of, and actually this story is what prompted me to actually finally get around to doing this. I was watching, I don't know, one of those paranormal shows on Netflix where they talk about, I can't remember which one in particular, but they had a segment on there about a version of the black dog called Padfoot. And he's called Padfoot because most of the time he appears as just a black dog, but sometimes he'll be invisible, but you can just hear his paws hitting the pavement behind someone, or the rattle of a chain. But the story that they talked about on this, I just had to share because I find it amusing. This drunk guy was out at night and he sees Padfoot and he goes to kick it, and he misses it. The dog runs by. He gets wrapped up in the dog's chain. The dog drags him through the streets and then drops him off in front of his house and disappears.
Oh,
So he just gets fucking dragged by a ghost dog who just happens to know where he lives too. Maybe that
Right.
was the threat though, because he threw a kick and he's like, bitch, I know where you live.
yeah, right.
I'm gonna take you home. Let this be a warning.
Ooh, yeah. He just let him know he knew exactly where that dude lived. I want a drunk escort ghost dog.
Yeah, it's like in a video game or something. You get a ghost or you get a dog whistle and you blow it and the dog comes flying through and whisks you away somewhere else.
Yeah, that's how you fast travel in the Wudcast video game.
Yeah. Yeah, Mateo gets to summon a dog. I get abducted by fucking barn owls.
Yeah, they just swoop down and grab Mike and fly away.
Yeah, he gets man's best friend. I get fucking man's worst enemy.
Yeah, but the catch is I got to get hammered first, though. So I got to get hammered, and then you'll
Yeah,
just...
you do. You do have to, and then the dog shows up and gets in your way, and you try to kick it, and then
Yeah.
then
You just see me fly away by like something pulling me by my ankle.
yeah. But the black dog, man, it's all over the place, and like I said, it's all these different stuff, or all these different things attributed to it. Like there's one, the black dog of Newgate, for instance, which is a dog that haunts specifically Newgate prison, and there's been reports of this dog haunting the prison for 400 years. But the dog will show up before executions, and he's like a herald of death. But according to the legend, in 1596, there was this scholar that was sent to prison for witchcraft. But before he was brought to trial, the other prisoners who were starving, because, prison conditions in the 1500s, they left a little bit to be desired. So they were hungry. They ended up killing and eating this guy. So he didn't even get to stand trial for witchcraft. He was just killed and eaten.
Holy shit.
And the dog, after his death, this black dog started to show up. And it would terrify men. Like, it would terrify the other prisoners to the point that they would literally kill the guards to escape from this thing.
Holy shit.
And the legend says that if the black dog was targeting someone, even if they escaped the prison, the beast would still hunt them down no matter where they went and kill them.
Oh my God.
So he's a badass one. He doesn't take any. He's not only an omen of death. He's saying, if you're not gonna die, then I'm gonna make sure you die, motherfucker.
Damn, I like this one.
And that there's a few cases where the black dog is a guardian or helpful in some way. There's a story from the Isle of Man where there was a black dog that was looked at as being a guardian to this group of sailors. There was this, there was a fishing trip planned. A group of sailors showed up at the Peel Harbor, and they were waiting for the captain to show up. They were planning on doing a night fishing trip, and the whole crew was there. They were just waiting for the captain. So they're sitting on board the ship, still in harbor, waiting for the captain, but he never came. In the morning, there was a sudden storm that nobody expected. It just sprang up, and it likely would have capsized their boat and taken the entire crew down with them. But because the captain didn't show up, they never left harbor. So finally, the captain gets rejoined with his crew later in the day, and they ask, where the hell were you? And he said he was on his way there, and this huge black dog blocked him. Every path he would try to take to get around it, this dog would not let him pass. And he said finally he just gave up and turned around and went home, and the black dog left him alone once he turned and went home. So because this black dog prevented him from getting to the ship never left, and the entire crew survived. So this is the guardian of Peel Harbor. he's a black dog, and nobody died that day. So he
Wow.
was the opposite.
Right, right. Very interesting.
And then there's the black dog of Preston, which is a black dog without a head that is said to appear at the city gates if the town needs to be defended. And despite the fact that it has no head, it can still howl. And those that
Ugh.
hear its howl will be dead shortly after hearing it. But the black dog would also act like like an omen, and it would, people who lived inside Preston, it would appear outside their houses and lay outside their door if there was someone inside that was about to die.
That's crazy. That's scary.
Well, to me, like I that seems more like it's like, rather than being like a bringer of death, that it's there like hey, like paying its respects, like this person's dying, I'm gonna chill here till they're gone. But if you're attacking the city, its headless form will howl and make you die.
Ugh. That's
But
gross.
then there's even been stories of black dogs that have led someone to riches.
What?
Yeah, and this again, if you see a black dog, try to hit it. Maybe it'll take you home. Maybe it'll show you where there's riches. But there's a farmhouse in Lyme Regis that had been haunted by a black dog, and the dog never caused anybody any harm, but it was an unnerving presence. And one night, the master of the house got drunk, saw this thing, and got pissed off. So he went to attack it with an iron poker, and he swung at it and missed, and the dog fled and ran up to the attic, and then it leaped out of the attic through the ceiling and disappeared.
Whoa.
So he went up and he hit the spot where the dog disappeared in the ceiling and busted a hole in the ceiling, but it wasn't through the roof. He discovered that there was this hidden cache there, and in this little stash area was gold and silver.
Ooh.
And after this, the dog was never seen indoors, but to this day, there's still reportings that it haunts the lane outside at midnight every night. This lane is called Hay Lane or Dog Lane, and it said any dogs who are allowed to stray on this road at night will mysteriously disappear.
It almost seems like might be these areas' way of manifesting maybe like just a bad spirit. Like the guys in the jail fucking did something horrible, so horrible shit happened. But then there's like a drunk guy, and he gets taken home. And then was the other guy who tried to hit the dog with the poker drunk? Was maybe the
Yep,
dog?
he was also drunk. He was
Wow.
also drunk.
Okay.
So if you're in the area with black dogs, make sure you get all schnockered up, and then try to exert violence upon the dog, and it'll either take you home or give you riches.
Right. They're just like that's
Or portend your death.
yeah, its head will fall off and then it'll just start howling, and then you're screwed.
But then there's even weirder stuff with
Oh,
these.
all right.
So there's a lot of tales of these things being shapeshifters or maybe wizards. So there's one called the Barghest. I think that's how you pronounce it, Barghest. But this is from Yorkshire. And there's stories that it'll prey on lone travelers in the narrow alleys and cities, or alleyways and streets of York. And the during the 1870s, it was said that near Darlington there was a shape-shifting Barghest who would take the form of a headless man who would vanish into flames. Sometimes he would take the form of a headless lady, a white cat, a rabbit, or a black dog.
Whoa.
And
Were they
it
all
was said
headless?
if you were
or-
to, no, just the humanoid versions were headless for some reason.
Wow.
But if you were to run into this figure, it was an omen of death. And there were a lot of people that would say they would see the Barghest appear with other dogs, and they would form this kind of funeral procession, and they would howl and bark to foretell the death of a notable person in the area. And if you were to get in its way, the Barghest would strike out with its paws, and it would leave a wound on the victim that would never heal.
Ooh. You were marked by the Black Hound.
Yeah. But this one has some kind of weird folklore that goes along with it, like a vampire. It wasn't able to cross running water.
Huh.
So if you're being chased by the paw that leaves the wound that never heals, then just find a stream or something.
That's interesting. There's always like a trick or some type of tact to beat these things, or at least achieve safety from them.
Yeah. Then there's the black dog of Northorpe, and that was said to be a human, an old man who was reputed to be a wizard, who had the power to shapeshift, and he could turn into a black dog. And when he would then go and attack his neighbor's livestock.
Oh, what a jerk.
So that kind of goes to like the old werewolf lore.
Yeah, I was going to say the wound that doesn't heal kind of touched on werewolf lore a little bit, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, and then there's, I feel like we've talked about the Capelthwaite before. Does that sound familiar to you?
No.
I swear we talked about it before, but it's a version of the black dog. Well, it's a kind of a version from Westmoreland, and it's called the Capelthwaite, and it could take the form of any quadruped, but its preferred form was a large black dog. And so this entity, its name was Capelthwaite. So it wasn't like a group of, it was considered to be one being. But he was actually a helpful one, and he would perform services for people. Like he would round up sheep that had gotten away. Like he would act as a shepherd dog. Anybody in the area, but outsiders, he would act like a trickster. And because of the fact that he was a shapeshifter and a trickster, he was eventually banished by the vicar and was forced to leave Westmoreland.
I wonder how he banished him. Was he just like, get out of here, or did he perform like a magical rite?
Probably like an exorcism sort of deal, something like that.
He was just like, beat it, you're killing all the livestock, you jerk.
Yeah. Well, no, he was helping with the livestock. He was scaring outsiders. Chances are the vicar was an outsider, and he's like, fuck off, vicar, I don't want you here. And he's like, but I am a holy man. And he says, well, I'm a devil dog. We don't match. Now get out of here. Now get out. And then the vicar's like, may the power of Christ compel you. And he's like, oh, shit, I got to bail.
He was serious. I'm leaving.
Yeah. Yeah. He compelled... He invoked the name of Christ, and now he's compelling me with that name. Fuck.
Oh, all right, I'll get out of here.
I'm powerless. God damn it. But as with all things, I would like to end this by tying the black dogs to fairies, if I could.
Oh, all right. See, kind of, you know what? Before you get into that,
yeah,
I think subconsciously that's where I always put the black hounds and the black dogs. It's because they're mainly in Europe, where fairies are from, and like the whole omen thing and just appearing. That's the camp I always put them in.
All right, so let me give you some quick background on the Wild Hunt, because this gets tied in with a lot of the black dog stuff, and so the Wild Hunt it's found in folklore across Europe primarily. Like I mentioned earlier with the black dog stuff where it seems to originate, the Wild Hunt also seems to come from places that have Celtic, Germanic, or Slavic cultural backgrounds. But what the Wild Hunt is, it's like a hunting procession. It typically involves a chase that's led by a mythological figure, and it's escorted by ghostly or a supernatural group of hunters. And the leader of the hunt, whoever's leading this hunt, varies based on the culture. But it will typically be some sort of legendary or mythological figure, or like a folk hero, or in some instances, people have reported seeing a biblical figure. The hunters that are involved in the hunt, depending on the culture, are either considered to be the souls of the dead, ghost dogs, fairies, elves, or in the Nordic countries, Valkyries. But what these things do, they're often, it's just like this procession of hunters blowing their horns, and they're typically accompanied by black dogs following along with them. And they usually it's like a prophecy, or they'll portend some sort of major catastrophe, like a war or plague, or they'll act as an omen of death. But there's also some belief, depending on the culture or the time frame where they're seeing the wild hunt. But there's also the belief that the members of the wild hunt are fae folk or fairies, and that they might abduct witnesses and bring them into the fairy realm, or they'd pull their souls out and the souls would join the hunt.
Ooh.
Yeah. So like I said, it varies based on the area. So it seems like the event is shared across cultures, but who is leading the charge, so to speak, and involved in it, changes based on where it is. Like it, almost like the phenomena is shaping itself to be relevant to the culture that it's appearing in. But I've got a case here specifically from the year 1127 in Peterborough.
Whoa.
And there was a report concerning the visit of the abbot Henry of Poitou, and he was arriving at Peterborough Abbey. And when as soon as he arrived at the abbey, witnesses all in the area began to see the wild hunt. They were seen in every park in the town of Peterborough, as well as the woods that stretched between Peterborough and Stamford. They were described as the huntsmen themselves were described as being black, huge, and hideous. They were riding on black horses and giant black goats, and they were running with a group of black hounds that had glowing eyes the size of saucers. At night, monks from a monastery near the woods reported that they would hear the sounds of hounds every single night howling and barking, along with the blowing of horns. And these sightings continued from the time that the abbot showed up, extended all through the season of Lent, which is 40 days, and ended once Easter was over. So I don't know. In this case, it doesn't sound like there was any death that was associated with this, but it makes me wonder if, because the fairy beliefs was in with the Celtic belief system. So the Christian belief system would probably have done away with that. So I wonder if maybe these were fairies, like showing strength in the face of an abbot, a Christian abbot showing up. And they're like, we're going to show him. And then they get the burliest, creepiest looking bunch of fairies they could find, slap them on some giant black goats, send some black dogs out, and away they go. But I mean, with all things, I don't want to say they're fairies, because I think fairies is just one way to describe it. But it definitely seems to have, even though it takes the form of a dog, like you said, it does seem to have that fae feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, from being a prophetic sort of being to being an entity that just kind of seems to thrive on creating chaos and mischief.
Yeah.
He's I don't know. Maybe he's just a puppy at heart, and he just gets put in the spirit form of this creepy dog, and really he's just a fucking puppy. And everybody knows, aside from being cute, puppies are the biggest assholes. They're destructive, they're annoying, they piss and shit everywhere, they bite everything. They're pains in the asses. And maybe that's what these are. They're puppies that died too young, and all they wanted to be was a big burly dog. And after they died, their ghost comes back as a big burly dog, but they still just have the spirit of a puppy, and they just want to play
And show you hidden treasures.
Yeah, and look at you with their single cycloptic flaming eye.
And punish you for cannibalism.
Yeah. Or maybe become a dog because of cannibalism.
Ooh.
I don't know. That's the thing. Like, every story is similar but different. It seems like each one has their own origin, but in the end it's the same deal. Like, if you see it, chances are you're about to die.
Wow.
And if you're a prisoner who escapes, he will hunt you down. He will be fucking Liam Neeson. Yeah. And that's what he does. The black shuck has a very, very specific set of skills. He will hunt you. He will find you.
Thank you for listening to the Whatcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, iTunes, and YouTube. Enjoy the podcast. Get yourself a Whatcast t-shirt or a sticker pack. Who was that dude on that one episode? Try the links in Homie's page. All this and more can be found at www.thewhatcasters.com. Thanks again for listening and have a great week.